They found his teeth before they found his name. Blood had soaked into the alley's frozen asphalt, thick like molasses, steaming in the Chicago cold. A gold ring, carved with an eagle clutching arrows, still gripped a severed finger near the gutter. The hit was clean, efficient. No witnesses, no sound but the city breathing. Inside the warehouse, the smell of gunpowder lingered like ghosts. Sam Giancana had made enemies, sure. But this wasn't the work of a rival. It was surgical. Governmental. A warning, not revenge. His body was gone. Just pieces left behind to make a point. Somewhere across town, the FBI sat in silence, file folders spread like tarot cards on the table. One agent whispered, "He knew too much." Another said, "He was too much." But Sam hadn't disappeared. Not really. You see, ghosts don't vanish. They go underground. And the streets? They remember everything. Even when the blood freezes. Before he was the ghost, he was just Sammy from Oak Street. Skinny legs, sharp eyes, and fists that learned early how to defend a name that carried no weight. His mother prayed over boiling water while he watched his father lose rent money in basement games. The neighborhood smelled of wine, blood, and Sunday gravy. The men in hats, the real ones, watched him from the corner stoop. He wasn't born into the mob. He earned it. First as a lookout. Then as a runner. Then came the first time he held a gun. He was 16. The job went wrong. His friend caught a bullet in the cheek. Sam didn't flinch. That's what they remembered. Not the blood. Not the screaming. Just the way he stood still as the city broke its voice around him. Loyalty was currency. And young Giancana. He learned how to spend it. Giancana climbed fast. By 25, he wasn't just known. He was feared. He drove a navy blue Packard, smoked Cuban cigars, and tipped waitresses like a king. But his smile never reached his eyes. Trust. That was for dead men and fools. He learned to read people the way most read the newspaper, quick, quiet, and with suspicion. The streets didn't raise soft men. They raised survivors. And Giancana? He was a predator in a city full of prey. He made friends with politicians, owned cops like poker chips, and always left a back door open for the feds, just in case. You'd think a man like that feared nothing. But even wolves dream of fire. Chicago nights were made of whispers and sirens. Giancana learned to walk between them. One evening, outside a speakeasy in Cicero, he met her, Lena. Red lips, green eyes, a voice like broken violins. She wasn't from this world, but she wanted in. And Sam? He wanted something that wasn't soaked in blood. They danced once. Then again. Then for years. She knew what he did, and he knew she'd never forgive him for it. But they stayed. Because people like them don't run. They burn slow. Love in the mob is a loaded gun left on the nightstand. Sooner or later, it goes off. The night they killed Frankie Carboni changed everything. Frankie was Sam's right hand, his brother in everything but blood. A bullet behind the ear. Found in the trunk of a Buick near the harbor. Message clear, no one's untouchable. Sam didn't cry. He planned. Quietly. Ruthlessly. The streets demanded blood for blood. And Sam. He wasn't just willing. He was ready. His crew hit back within days. 3 men, 1 dog, and a whole bar burned to the ground. But the difference was this. Frankie had been family. And revenge was never enough when ghosts wore familiar faces. Before there were suits and scars, there was a boy running through alleyways with torn shoes and a pocket full of marbles. Sam Giancana was born Momo Salvatore Giancana, the son of Sicilian immigrants who brought more ghosts than gifts to America. His father, a baker, worked long hours and longer silences. His mother died when Sam was 8. After that, nothing ever felt warm again. The streets of Little Italy became his school, the corner boys his professors. They taught him how to lie, how to swing a pipe, and how to disappear when the cops showed up. But Sam didn't just learn, he adapted. The rage in his belly wasn't just survival. It was ambition. He wanted more than scraps. He wanted a seat at the table, even if he had to break every bone to get there. His first taste of power came in a butcher's alley behind Rizzo's daylight. 12 years old. A kid named Johnny Fiore tried to rob a blind fruit vendor. Sam watched. What? Then acted. He took a brick to Johnny's knees. The old man wept, not from fear, but gratitude. The next day, Sam had free apples. The day after that, Rizzo gave him $10 and a nod. Respect, Sam realized, wasn't given, it was earned through fear. By 13 he was doing drop-offs for the 42 gang, riding a rusted bicycle with cash taped under the seat. No one questioned the scrawny kid with the sharp eyes. But Sam already knew, he wasn't going to stay a runner forever. The 42 gang was a fraternity of wolves disguised as kids. Street smart, fast-talking and fearless. They hijacked trucks, ran gambling rings, and carved out pieces of Chicago block by block. Sam became their unofficial strategist. He knew which doors would open and which would shoot back. He never spoke much, but when he did, people listened. They called him Momo, short for M.O. Money. He hated the name, but he loved the rise. Underneath that quiet stare was a mind already planning 10 moves ahead. He once said, "You don't win by being the loudest, you win by being the last one standing when the noise stops." And standing was something Sam did better than most. By 18, Sam had blood on his hands, and a reputation that traveled faster than streetcars. The outfit took notice. Not the kids with pocket knives, but the real ones. Men with cigars and secrets. Paul Ricca sent word. They wanted to meet. It wasn't an offer. It was a command. Sam arrived alone, suit 2 sizes too big, heart like thunder. Ricca didn't smile. Just said, "You got nerve. That's rare." Sam didn't blink. That meeting changed his life. From then on he wasn't a street rat. He was an apprentice. A future king learning from murderers dressed like bankers. The transition wasn't clean. It was earned in blood, silence, and obedience. And Sam? He never forgot the lesson, sit quiet, but never sit weak. The transformation was surgical. The boy who broke kneecaps for fruit became the man who whispered to judges. Sam polished his shoes until they blinded, wore cologne that stung, and kept his words fewer than his kills. He studied how bosses moved, when they nodded, when they stayed still. He learned that power wasn't loud. It was stillness in a room full of noise. By 25 he was more ghost than man, gliding through corridors of cash, secrets and threats. One night, a rival called him a puppet. Sam didn't flinch. He only said, "Puppets don't pull strings." That rival disappeared the next morning. No body. No rumors. No. Just silence. And Sam's empire kept growing, brick by bloody brick. By 1955, Sam Giancana wasn't just part of the outfit. He was the outfit. He ran Chicago like it was stitched into his veins. Politicians kissed his ring, cops looked the other way, and even priests gave him nods at Sunday Mass. But with power came paranoia. He trusted no one. Not even the mirror. One night, he stared at his reflection and said, "Thou smile while sticking a knife in your back." His bedroom had no windows. His phone rang only once before he answered. He ate the same meal every day. It wasn't habit, it was control. The more he gained, the more he feared losing. Because in the world he ruled, loyalty was rented, and betrayal came prepaid. Sam's influence spilled beyond Chicago. Vegas was his new playground. Casinos lit like firecrackers, dealers on his payroll, and every chip rigged in his favor. But it wasn't just money, it was messaging. He wanted the world to know who ran the house. He made backroom deals with union bosses, and whispered threats over champagne. The FBI started listening. Wiretaps clicked like metronomes. But Sam didn't flinch. He walked into casinos like a king, cigar in hand, flanked by muscle. One night he leaned toward a pit boss and said, "Everyone pays the house. Even the feds." The room went quiet. Because in Vegas, silence was the sound of fear. Then came the politicians. Sam didn't need votes, he bought them. He bankrolled campaigns, whispered into senators' ears, and even had files on J. Edgar Hoover's secrets. His phone never rang, he made it ring. Men in Washington owed him favors they couldn't name aloud. They called him the silent partner, but he wasn't silent, just invisible. When Kennedy ran for president, rumor had it Sam pushed unions to sway the vote in Chicago. Some said the White House had mob fingerprints. Sam never confirmed it. He just smiled, lit a cigarette, and said, "You think the president makes deals? I am the deal." But the higher he climbed, the more cracks showed. His crew began to splinter. One man skimmed off the top. Another talked too much. And then there was Tony Accardo, older, colder, and watching from a distance. Sam had outgrown his leash. He started making solo deals, ignoring the chain of command. That was dangerous. The outfit wasn't a family. It was a hierarchy. And Sam had become unpredictable. He once told a friend, "I ain't a soldier anymore. I'm the goddamn war." But wars leave bodies. And the whispers of rebellion were starting to sound a lot like eulogies. Then came the lover's vanishing act. Lena was gone. No note. No warning. Just perfume lingering in the hallway and a drawer left open. Sam searched but never asked questions. He knew better. She had seen too much, heard too much, and maybe loved too much. Rumor said the FBI turned her. Others whispered that she fled before he broke completely. Sam stopped dancing, stopped laughing, stopped trusting women with green eyes. That night, he poured whiskey on her side of the bed and lit a match. Then he stood in the smoke and whispered, "They all leave. Only the fire stays." And from that moment on, the only warmth in his life came from the barrel of a gun. It started with whispers inside his own walls. The phone line clicked twice before the dial tone. A driver who'd been with him for 7 years suddenly disappeared. Then came the bug in his study, hidden in a desk lamp, disguised as a screw. Sam crushed it in his hand, blood mixing with copper. That night, he lined every room with jazz records at full volume. The FBI was close, too close. But the real pain wasn't the feds, it was the betrayal inside. Someone had flipped. Not a soldier. Not a cop. Someone close. Someone who knew where the bodies were, where the cash moved, and what Sam muttered in his sleep. He didn't say it aloud, but in his gut, he knew. The leak had a familiar face. The call came from someone he hadn't heard from in years. Lena's voice, distant and fractured, trembled through the line. "I'm sorry, Sammy. I had no choice." Then silence. No number. No way back. The room spun. Lena hadn't vanished. She'd been taken, turned, and used. The Bureau hadn't just hunted him. They'd hollowed him from the inside. Every deal, every whisper, every order, they had it all. She was the devil he didn't see coming. And he had loved her. That was the worst sin of all. Love had opened the door. And the feds had walked right in. When the tapes were played, his own voice became his executioner. "No one touches Cicero without my say. That senator, he's bought." Words like bullets, each one a confession. The courtroom was silent, not from shock, but awe. The great Giancana, so careful, so silent, undone by the one person he let close. The agents didn't celebrate. They knew he'd never serve time. Not really. Men like him didn't go to prison. They went to war. And Sam, he wasn't planning a defense. He was planning a reckoning. Quietly. Deliberately. With names. Lots of names. Lots of names. He disappeared for months. Some said Cuba. Others said Canada. But The truth? Sam had gone underground, deep into the bones of the city. He wore a beard now, drove an unmarked car, ate alone, trusted no one. But in the shadows, he built something new. A list. Men who owed him. Men who feared him. And men who thought he was gone. He wasn't. He was just quieter now. Like a storm behind a closed window. Because Sam knew, to survive betrayal, you don't strike back fast. You strike back right. One at a time. When it hurts the most. The twist wasn't that Lena betrayed him. The twist was who she did it for. Not the Bureau. Not a rival crew. But Tony Accardo. The old lion hadn't lost his teeth. He'd watched Sam rise, then bleed. He fed Lena to the feds, knowing she'd be the scalpel. Giancana never saw it. Accardo didn't just take back control, he rewrote the narrative. Sam wasn't a boss anymore. He was a liability with too many headlines. The family didn't want martyrs. They wanted ghosts. So the order came down. Not a bullet. Not a beating. Just silence. Kind that wraps around your throat like velvet. He came back to Chicago like a ghost in broad daylight. No crew. No warning. Just a black car rolling down Cicero Avenue. The outfit watched, uncertain whether to run or reload. Sam Giancana had been marked for death, but death hadn't claimed him. Not yet. His eyes were colder now. Not angry. Empty. And emptiness is the most dangerous weapon. He walked into his old club, sat at his usual table, and lit a cigarette. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The bartender trembled. You want something? Sam exhaled smoke and said, just the names. That night, 4 people vanished. No bullets found. No doors broken. Just silence, and Sam's shadow stretching longer across the floor. The reckoning wasn't loud. It was surgical. One by one, the men who had smiled during his fall were erased. Car crashes. Heart attacks. Disappearances in daylight. It wasn't revenge. It was accounting. Sam never touched a weapon. He just made phone calls, whispered into payphones like prayers. The city held its breath. Accardo watched but didn't move. He'd made his play. Now he waited to see if Giancana would burn out or blow up the whole damn table. One night a man named Vito woke up with his dog's head on the pillow. The message was clear. Sam hadn't forgotten. He never forgot. But ghosts don't stay untouched forever. The FBI came knocking, not with warrants, but offers. Immunity. Dying. Deals. A seat at the table if he'd talk. Sam stared at them through wire-rimmed glasses and said, You want stories? I'll give you nightmares. What followed was months of secret testimony, closed rooms, redacted transcripts. He gave just enough to stay alive, but not enough to burn the whole forest. He knew how much gasoline was in his words. Every name he whispered was a lit match. But Sam didn't want mercy. He wanted leverage. And if that meant feeding the wolves just enough to turn on each other, so be it. They thought he was out. Done. Done. Retired into silence. But Sam never stopped moving. He knew one last betrayal was coming. So he set a trap. At a meeting in his own kitchen, 6 chairs, 5 empty. He cooked sausage and peppers himself. Old school. The man who showed up last was Sal, the driver, the snitch, the Judas. Sam poured 2 glasses of wine. Drink, he said. Sal hesitated. Sam smiled. If you gotta think about it, you already know. Sal drank. Tutty. Sam didn't. The body was found 2 days later, bloated in the Calumet River. No bruises. No wounds. Just a smile carved into his face. Some said it wasn't Sam. That he was long gone. But others swore they saw him that night, walking home, whistling. Then it happened. June 19, 1975. His own home. His own basement. 6 bullets, back of the head. Execution style. No signs of struggle. No broken locks. No cameras. No witnesses. Just dinner left on the stove. The papers called it a mob hit. The Bureau denied involvement. But nobody really believed that. Not after all the deals, the names, the shadows he pulled into light. Some said it was payback. Others said it was the government cleaning up loose ends. But the message was clear. Sam Giancana had stopped being useful. And in his world, that was the same as being dead. He died in silence. But the streets? They still whisper his name. The headlines hit like thunder. Mob boss found dead in own basement. But Chicago didn't cry. It exhaled. Politicians gave soft denials. Agents folded their files. And the streets carried on like nothing happened. No public funeral. No flowers. Just a fast burial under a false sky, the coffin lowered before sunrise. They said his house was never sold, that the basement light still flickers sometimes. Ghost stories for children. But the truth, Sam Giancana didn't leave behind echoes. He left shadows, untraceable, heavy, waiting. The silence after his death was louder than any gunshot. Because men like Sam don't die. They just stop answering the phone. In the months that followed, files vanished. Transcripts redacted. Agents reassigned. The Bureau denied they ever had him under surveillance that week. One reporter who pushed too hard died in a boating accident. Conspiracy theorists wrote books. None of them sold. The system had swallowed Sam's trail like it never existed. His death didn't just end a chapter, it burned the whole book. Men whispered in bars that Giancana had become too big, too loud, too involved. Cuba. Vegas. D.C. He didn't get clipped for betrayal. He got clipped for being inconvenient. And in the world of suits and silencers, that's the only real crime. Lena was never seen again. No trace. No passport. No death certificate. Some say she changed her name and fled to Europe. Others say she disappeared the same day Sam died, taken out by the same hands. The only thing left was a necklace. A silver crucifix mailed anonymously to a South Side church where they once danced. The priest who received it never spoke. But the envelope had 2 words written in smudged ink: "Forgive me." Whether it was guilt, closure, or a warning, no one could say. But that crucifix still hangs above the altar, untarnished. And sometimes the choir swears they hear footsteps during Mass, even when no one is near the back pews. For those who survived him, the fear never left. Old capos refused to say his name. His crew disbanded or disappeared. The outfit rebuilt itself, cleaner, quieter, more corporate. No more cigars in back rooms. Just balance sheets and blind trusts. But in Cicero, there's still a bar where the jukebox skips on one track, always at 3:17, right when Sam used to walk in. The bartender just shrugs and says, he checks in sometimes. No one laughs. Because everyone who knew him understood. Sam Giancana might have died, but his myth moved in. And myths are harder to bury. There's no plaque. No street name. No legacy written in marble. Just the echo of a man who made the FBI dance, made presidents squirm, and made betrayal an art form. Sam Giancana lived like a shadow and died like a whisper. But even now, decades later, when a politician falls too hard, when a casino closes too quietly, when a wiretap catches laughter just before silence, someone always asks, was that him? Not out of fear, out of memory. Because the truth is, Sam didn't want immortality. He wanted control. And in a city built on secrets, control is the only kind of forever. Years later, a young man walked into the same Cicero bar, asked for the jukebox to play track 9. The bartender paused. That track's broken. The kid smiled, said, I know. His name? Tony G, grandson. Same sharp jawline. Same cold eyes. No criminal record. But rumors? Plenty. Real estate mogul by day, invisible hand by night. Said to own buildings the government couldn't touch, companies that moved money like whispers. He never said his grandfather's name. But when asked why he moved back to Chicago, he simply said, I like the silence here. Some legacies wear gold watches. Others wear silence like a second skin. Tony G didn't have to use fear. He inherited reputation like currency. Men whispered when he entered rooms. Women studied him like fine art. He didn't break knees. He signed papers that did worse. A quiet empire of influence. No guns, just contracts. No witnesses, just loopholes. But at night, alone in his penthouse, he'd stare out over the city with a glass of scotch and listen to the silence. Some nights he swore he could hear jazz in the distance. Or smell cologne from a man he never met. And sometimes, just sometimes, he'd check the basement door to make sure it was locked. Legacy isn't a gift. It's a shadow. There are still files stamped Giancana in locked federal cabinets. Still agents who lower their voices when saying the name. The story's not over. Just classified. Redacted. But in those folders are pieces, recordings, photos, names scribbled in shaking handwriting. Whispers of a man who played the bureau like a piano. A man whose silence hurt more than his bullets. One memo, never released, reads, Giancana understood leverage better than law. Below it? A handwritten note. If he had lived, we'd have all been working for him. There's no statute of limitations on fear. Just tighter locks. In Chicago, the seasons change, but some things don't. Every year on June 19th, a single red rose appears at Giancana's grave. No name. No card. Just the stem, fresh as truth. Some think it's Lena. Others think it's Tony. But most believe it's the city itself, paying tribute, or maybe begging forgiveness. Because Sam didn't just stain the streets with blood. He tattooed them with memory. And memory never fades. Especially not when it bleeds. There's no retirement plan for ghosts. Sam Giancana's story didn't end with a bullet. It ended with a warning, one whispered through marble floors, echoed in courtrooms, and tattooed in the silence between phone rings. He taught the city how to keep secrets. He taught the government how to fear its own files. And he taught us one final truth. Legends don't ask to be remembered. They just wait, in the dark, for the world to admit they never left. Somewhere, a man lights a cigar. Somewhere, a phone rings once. Somewhere, someone answers.